So hi, I'm Goodham here to show you the Flask build. It's a build basically governed by the power of flasks. The build that took all the flask nodes and a jewel that has a flask effect on it. So treat something. Generally doesn't really matter. I'm using EK. It could be built a lot of different ways with like a dagger or some other type of thing that does physical damage. Kind of important that it does physical damage, because the Taste of Fate and the Atziri's Promise, I don't even know why this thing's called the Taste of Fate. It's more like the Buffet of fucking Broken, because it's completely overpowered. I have no idea why this thing exists. I just don't know. I don't know. It's broken. The other thing that's completely broken is Yurumi's Concoction. Say you have a shield with 30% chance to block. That means you're mitigating, or you're only taking like 70% of the damage. If you have a Yurumi's up for another 30% chance to block, you're just taking from like 70% of the damage to like 40% of the damage. So just by having the flask, you can almost cut the damage you take in half, on top of it already being on a granite flask base, which is awesome. But if you take all the flask effect nodes, which is Alchemist for 30%, and the Conqueror's Potency Jewel, which you can get in Merciless Act 2 from the Fell Shrine Hand of a Good Man quest, for another 8%. And with all that stuff, it provides 41% chance to block, and Taste of Fate provides 41% physical damage taken as cold damage, and 41% physical damage as extra cold damage during Flask effect. So it's literally better than the Hatred aura. So Hatred is 35% with some aura nodes, maybe about 40 something. And this is just straight 41 from the ether, I suppose. Don't ask me why, it's fucking broken. So this already provides 41% of the physical damage I'm taking to be kind of just nullified, because with all the flask effect nodes, my max resistance is now 88. So all that 41% of the damage is now being mitigated by another 88%. So effectively I'm taking, what, 1/10 of that? So what, 4% of the damage? So a lot of mitigation, but if you combine it with other things that oddly the same effect, like for instance there's Dark Scorn Bow, which is horrible and I still don't know why anyone would use it. The Red Blade Mod Helmet, which provides 10% of physical damage taken as fire damage, so stacks more of that on. And then the Cloak of Flame or the Lightning Coil. I'm using the Cloak of Flame because it costs 1 chaos, and it's 20% physical damage taken as fire damage. So yeah, so in total 71% of physical damage taken as elemental, and that's being mitigated 88% by all the flasks. So yeah, a lot of mitigation. On top of that, I have a shield with 32% base chance to block. I have 1 block node on the tree for 2% spell block, and with a Yurumi's Concoction up, I have Yurumi's Concoction, Tempest Shield, capped attack block, and 73% spell block. So if it was a slightly better roll Yurumi's Concoction, it would be capped and capped. Or if I had like some block chance implicit on the Stone Lazar I'm using. So this character has, in effect, what would that be, 15 endurance charges? Actually more like 17 endurance charges, and max block, as well as 88 alt res. So those are kind of like the defensive stats on the character, even though they're not really visible. So just think of this character as like having that many of things. So you can do some kind of wacky shit, like here's a Portrait with a Sound. It's kind of considered one of the most dangerous maps in the game, probably from the 100 and something increased monster damage and monster speed. And because of all the mitigation that's being given, it doesn't really make this sort of map too unsafe. The flasks also provide a lot of damage, like there's the Atziri's Promise Flask, which provides extra damage taken, or extra damage gained as chaos damage. So there's 25% physical damage gained, so this gives me a nice 7k-ish DPS boost on 25k for ethereal knives. And then there's the Taste of Hate, which boosts from 25 to 32, it's like another 7%. And with them combined, I get to like 41,000 DPS with no charges on, with EK. And I've taken some crit nodes, and a little bit of cast speed. Like, not really that much damage. And apparently that's enough. So let's start going. Now, here's kind of the issue with playing a character like this. You have to keep everything up at all times, because my defense is absolute garbage without it. So, yeah, basically my rotation is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, R. And I have to do that every 7 seconds, I think. You'll see a long list of buffs up here, and if any of those go down, it's kind of an issue. As for gear, I have some face breakers for the crit multiplier, Stone Lazar for spell block, Rainbow Stride for extra spell block, some rings with cast speed on diamond ring bases, a wand with some stuff, a shield with extra block chance, and some energy shield. Really the only source of energy shield besides the discipline aura, which I'm not sure I really need. And a belt. This belt's it's actually very hard to get a belt like this. First off, it's on a rustic base, so increased physical damage. Like, you know, get damage anywhere, get it on pieces of gear, don't matter. And a resist, and then 20% reduced flask effect, or flask charges used. And then you can craft on 5 to 15% increased flask effect duration. So all in all, the stats are flask charges used minus 35%, flask charges gained plus 40%, and flask duration plus 45%. So the flasks last 50% longer. These regular flasks, like granite flasks, they now consume 20 charges instead of 30, so they have 3 uses. And every mob I kill gives 1.4 charges instead of 1. So they should almost always be up, unless I'm going way too slow or attacking not very large packs. Let's see what happens, shall we? You are going to hear a lot of keyboard banging, so sorry about that. Because it's against the terms of service, for some reason, having a potion script running is, having some sort of like potion script to press like 1 through 5 automatically, not an option, so I've been manually pressing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and sometimes the R for probably the last 20 levels on this character. Oh yeah. That's much damage to take without flasks. It's pretty significant. Smash, 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 not smash. And even though I only have like 4,000 ES, the amount of mitigation makes it very safe. One of the issues is I don't have a Quicksilver Flask, because I'm using Rainbow Strides and have a shield equipped. Movement speed isn't quite, it's not incredibly fast to move around. It doesn't clear the fastest, but it has enough to do most things. And it's kind of amazing what you can tank through as long as you can maintain flask charges. There's only one other way to get flask charges besides, getting flask charges on unique flasks. So on regular flasks, you get like Avengers and Surgeons, to have another source of flask charges. But on unique flasks, the only other thing you can get flask charges from is the Harvest unique axe. So, interesting note. A Harvest could be used, but it's gonna lose a lot of defense because the Harvest eats up your shield slot. And I'm taking a little bit of damage. But this is like an amazing meta mitigation. See if I can get to the boss and then get out of here. So yeah, it's just kind of like a build that requires you to consistently mash buttons and continuously drink more and more. I was gonna name the character Gouda, but I didn't think it drank enough. So yeah, this is the Flask build. It's a little bit interesting. It's kind of hard to finally get working because most of these things require like Atziri's Flask is level 68. What? Ball Regalia is level 68. What else? Taste 8 only requires level 18. Don't ask me why, but it requires level 18. Ruby's Concoction requires level 68. So really it takes a while for the whole build to get going. But at some point it actually does become pretty safe if all the kind of requirements are gathered up correctly. So currently I'm using Warlord's Mark for the leech. But Poacher's Mark is also another option, like if you use Poacher's Mark with like maybe Spectral Throw or something. Like I'm only using EK because it's kind of the simplest way to build any character, just strap on a spell that kind of works, and EK always just sort of works. It's not great, but I think this might actually be better as like a Spectral Throw Dagger build or something like that. Some other style of dealing physical damage without too many nodes being taken up off the tree. No, Ghost, get over here. Oh well. And as you can see, just like a tremendous amount of mitigation. Just try doing something like this on like any character, just tanking like a pack of warbands in a Poor Joy's Asylum. I mean, the monsters in here seriously do an insane amount of damage. If you haven't done this map, pick one up. I hear they're 5 chaos. So, I am Gouda. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. Gear links and build descriptions will be in the YouTube description, so check it out. And anyways, I'm Gouda. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.